Welcome forward to star 10 of our reflections, and the three words we're going to be using today to help us, I suppose, talk to the scriptures or help the scriptures reveal deeper meaning to us are acceptance, patient, and patriarch of Christians, which that obviously refers to Saint Joseph. So again, we're still in the Beatitudes. So blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. Again, I've written down a few, I suppose, words and a few brainstorm ideas to help me just talk through this, and again compare those words to the scriptures and help them talk to each other, so that maybe that reveals something extra from the scriptures. And even as I'm sitting here thinking, despite the fact I've done some brainstorming, I'm still thinking different things. And one of them is actually asking myself a question. It's got, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. I just wonder, actually, what do I really hunger and thirst for? And I think that's an interesting question we should maybe all ask ourselves. And I suppose I could leave it there, because that's quite incredibly powerful in itself. I mean, do we hunger and thirst for righteousness? And actually, do we know what that really means? And I suppose it would be quite good just to pause there and think about that. And there's a number of things, or a number of ways of looking at that. But I think it's about being, I suppose, righteousness is about being morally right or living in accord with moral law. And then you've got to ask yourself, well, who decides that? So I'd like to think that righteousness in this context is actually God's will. So do I hunger and thirst for God's will in my life? And that's an interesting, I need to give that some thought. So going back to those three words, acceptance, patient, and patriarch of Christians, or if you like, father of Christians, and again that would be easy to refer to Saint Joseph. So if we look at the word acceptance, I think it would be easy. Some of my notes on acceptance, just quick brainstorms, actually we could talk for quite a while, but I think it's about linking to the star 9 yesterday, which was about being meek, and that's about accepting yourselves. We need to accept ourselves first before we can accept or authentically accept others. And again, that I suppose that's something I need to sort of think through. So I need to be befriending myself, and that might require being patient with myself. And are we patient with each other and ourselves, interestingly? So again, that links to love is patient, love is kind. And it's just worth giving that some more thought, really. So if we go back to the patriarch of Christians and trying to bring that together, what we've got there is Saint Joseph, who did hunger and thirst for righteousness, which is about doing God's will. And certainly he had to accept God's will, he had to understand it first and then accept it, which we know he did through his dreams and sleep. And hence the actual picture here of sleeping Joseph. And again, he would have had to have a lot of patience there to really understand about doing God's will and know, again, why did God choose Saint Joseph to be the father of Jesus? And again, that's probably why he's the father of Christians. In terms of the acceptance, again, I think that links back to yesterday when we talked about the prayer again. So I think that's raised its head again, which is that we have to accept the things we can't change, and but we also, I think, we have to accept the things we can change. And then we need the wisdom and courage to know the difference. And so that goes back to this: do we hunger and thirst for righteousness, which is about doing God's will? And so that's quite interesting. So just to conclude, I think if you try to bring that all together, which again I'm sure as the day goes on it will get more complicated for me and thinking about different things, but Saint Joseph certainly hungered and thirsted for righteousness, which was to do God's will, and so he was open to that, and that requires the acceptance of God's will and being incredibly patient. And so God's will was revealed eventually to Saint Joseph in his dreams. So no better an excellent role model than Saint Joseph to be the father of Christians. So I'll leave you with those thoughts, and God bless.